We all look at rich kids and think, wouldn't it just be so nice to be them? Money's always there, holidays are there, clothes are there, you've never got to think about money. It would be perfect, right? But is this even true? What if I was to tell you that rich kids are secretly miserable? What if I was to tell you that many rich kids have no hope for the future? What if I was to tell you that being a rich kid isn't all it's cracked up to be? Let's find out today on the Hezron Springer Show. Look guys, I'm not saying that by being a rich kid doesn't come with a whole lot of benefits. It does. But in today's episode, I want to show you the disadvantages. But to understand how the rich kid thinks, we first have to get into the mind of a poor kid first. For a poor kid, the only way is up, because they started off with nothing. Many poor kids don't realize this, but that's their biggest advantage. They can't get less holidays because they've never been on a holiday. They can't get any more poorer because they're already poor. For a poor kid, each and every single achievement matters. If they get a job at 16 and they get a pay rise by £2 an hour, that makes a huge difference to their quality of life. If they get lucky enough to go on a staff holiday, it doesn't even matter where that holiday is. For them, that's huge because they've never been on a holiday before. They will go out to whatever country it might be, they'll get a free hotel, and they don't even care the quality of the hotel because they've never even been in a hotel before. The poor kid grows up being content with nothing at all. They've lived in a circumstance where money was not plentiful, and they understand that you don't get everything you want. Yes, they may have tried to whine about it, but the poor kid would have quickly changed his tune as they realize from a young and early age that their parents are not rich. The poor kid might want to go on that holiday that all of the other kids are going on. He can't go. The poor kid might want that PlayStation or Xbox. He can't get it. The poor kid might want that birthday party. He isn't going to have it because the money just simply isn't there. And for that reason, when the poor kid finally gets into the workplace, he has a tremendous work ethic because every step that he makes up the corporate ladder, every business that he makes that blows, every single action in his life that improves the poor kid for the better makes a huge difference in terms of their quality of life. They think to themselves, hey, life can't get any worse. I've already been at the bottom of the food hierarchy. Let's give it everything that I've got because the only way from here is up. Now, let's contrast this to a rich kid's lifestyle. For many rich kids, from young, everything has been handed to them. The rich kid has never experienced a day in his life where his mum or dad has told him, hey, there's no food in the cupboard. Today you have to go hungry. The rich kid has never ever experienced this. From a young age, the rich kid has done all of the cool stuff already, like go to Thorpe Park, amusement parks, all of the cool local attractions. They've already done multiple holidays in a year. Many of them would have already completed those kind of big life goals that the poor kid have been dying for from young, like going to those fancy countries like Bali, Barbados, New York and LA. They've already been on those yacht parties and the boat parties chilling with the rich. For a rich kid, that's just a normal day out. Because their parents are rich, that usually means that they're in a social hierarchy at the very top. So for the rich kid, they might have dinner with a director of Apple there, or a owner of a big company on a Friday night, or some sports star or movie star or music star. And that to them is just regular. Many rich kids go to grammar or private schools where they pay crazy money usually anywhere between £20,000 to £40,000 a year. And that's just the basic fees. They've been secluded in an environment where all they know is simply rich. In their early ages, they might start to believe that the only people out there live lifestyles just like them. But it's simply not true. Every time the rich kid goes on a holiday, he's like, he already goes on 3 holidays a year. It's nothing special. Many of them might already fly premium economy, business or first class. There's a good saying in the plane industry. If you turn left when you enter the aircraft, you know you're on the upper echelons of life. For the poor kid, they've never ever turned left on an aircraft, let alone maybe even been on one in the first place. But for a rich kid, turning left is that's like going to Nando's on your 18th birthday. Nothing special, been here before. Most of the things that the rich kid wants, they get. Yeah, if they want that PlayStation 5, their parents might say, you have to get X and X grades to get that PlayStation for your birthday. But you got to understand, that's nothing, because for the poor kid, he still has to get those same grades, but there's no reward at the end. Their parents simply have no money for it. Because the rich kid has already experienced the trappings of life, they start to become content. And guess what contentment breeds? The opposite of motivation. I've taught so many rich kids over my professional career. But for most of them, the grand majority, and I mean like 99.99%, the spark just isn't there. That kind of go-getter attitude to say, yes, I'm gonna become successful. I'm gonna change my life. I'm gonna become the best that I can be. That's just not there. You know why? Because they already have it. They don't need to have the spark, because there's nothing higher up to look to. When I was a piano teacher, one of the parents asked me to take their son out because they had to do something at home very quickly. So we went to Wagamama's around the corner, and the waitress came to take our order. The rich kid just blabbered out everything that he wanted. I was like, hold on, we haven't got enough money to buy this. He was like, I didn't even look at the price. Don't worry about it, Hezron, my mum and dad will pay you when we get back. And I was like, wow, that just sums it up, doesn't it? For me, growing up as a normal kid, I never had the luxury to not look at the price, because money was always such a touchy subject for us. And I had dreamed at that time, when I was around 21, that one day I would never have to look at the price on a menu ever again. And yeah, I can do that with most restaurants now, but I've had to work bloody hard for over a decade just to get there. I've had to put blood, sweat and tears just to get to where I am today. And honestly, I'm not exactly where I should be just yet. But at that time, that rich kid, he was about 10 years old. And that just sums up the whole situation. Because he's already lived that fantastic life. He doesn't dream about anything of a life that's better, because his life is already better. He doesn't dream when he goes to bed after a long day of work or a long day at school that, wow, one day I'm going to have a big house and 3 holidays a year and I can finally go to skiing, or I can finally afford that nice car, or I can finally live the life that I've always wanted. He doesn't dream about that because he already has it. Let me tell you something, without giving away too much. That rich kid lives in a proper nice part of London. If I said the name, you guys would be like, yeah, bang. And he lives very close to one of London's national treasures, okay, in terms of their monuments and local attractions. And in that house, they have 4 floors. He lives such a rich lifestyle that he has a floor to himself. That's 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, all to himself. That's how that rich kid lives. It's just a complete different way of understanding life. Because for many poor kids, just simple things like having their own room, that's something to truly look forward to. But you must understand that the rich kid does not think that way because he already has it. He's already been to LA, the Alps for skiing, Barbados for surfing. He's already been to those fancy countries. When he goes on a yacht today, he's like, done that when I was 5. When he goes in first class, he's like, British Airways first class is better. Virgin first class sucks. When he meets a Hollywood star, he's like, my dad works for the BBC News anyway. He's a presenter on there. When he eats caviar or lobster, he's like, I'm bored of this stuff. Like, been eating this stuff every single day. When he has his private driver take him to that party and his friends are like, and his poor friends are like, wow. He's like, my private driver's so annoying. Like, he talks too much. They already have what many poor kids spend their whole lives looking forward to. And because of that, a deep-seated sadness grows within them. What's beautiful about life isn't what we already have. What gives your life meaning is progression. To say that today is better than yesterday, and that there's hope that tomorrow will be better than today. But for many rich kids, that feeling of hope, that feeling that life's gonna get better, that feeling that every decision that they make is gonna make a marked improvement on their life just simply isn't there. They've already got it. Their parents might have already bought them a house. There's no need to grind out hard and get that deposit. That sense of dream, that sense of purpose for them, for a lot of them, not all of them, isn't there. Why need hope if you've already got what you needed hope for? Why need a dream if you've already been living it? It's a sad, sad place for a rich kid, guys. And for many of them, they cover up their sadness with bravado and materialistic things. You know, you might see these rich kids on Instagram with showing off their Bugattis, fast cars, and all of these things. But you have to understand the reason they're doing is because deep down they're miserable inside. Because they have nothing to look forward to. And in many ways, it's not their fault. I'm not making a judgment call on these people individually. I'm not even making a judgment call on their parents either, because if you have money, you want to give your kids the best life. But what I'm saying is that there's a price to pay for that. It's just not like you have money and you have kids and everything's perfect and it's like boo-ba-doo-ba-doo. You suck them of all that passion of having the joy of hope and a dream. I mean, if I look back at my life, the majority of my joy has come from me grinding and saying to myself, wow, like I can make it here. I can finally afford the things, you know, that I've always wanted, you know. I'm gonna get this dream. I'm gonna improve my quality of life. But the rich kid doesn't have that. He's been suffocated of the experience of hope and a dream. I really need to make you understand this. This is why I'm saying this multiple times. Because the feeling of having a dream is so powerful. For many of us, it's what keeps us going every single day. But I saw a pattern very quickly in these rich kids, and at first I was mesmerized, but once I really got to know them on a deeper level, there's a really deep-seated sadness. But it gets worse, guys. It gets far worse. If it just stopped there, then it wouldn't even be that bad, but it gets worse than that, guys. For the poor kid, the only way is up. But for the rich kid, the only way is down. They say the higher you go, the harder you can fall. And that is certainly true when it comes to a rich kid's lifestyle. Because the truth is, for the majority of rich kids, their lifestyle can go at any time. As quick as the rich kid's family became rich, they can lose it all. Yes, there's a very few, small percentage of rich kids who have old money. That money ain't going nowhere. But for the majority of rich kids who have new money, their parents' business can go, bang. Their parents' job might go, bang. Recession hits, bang. So they live in constant fear of losing what they already have. The poor kid doesn't fear that at all because they already have nothing. There's nothing to lose. But for a rich kid, there's everything to lose. And it's worse than going from poor to rich to poor because that person's already experienced what it's like to have nothing. But when you've never experienced being poor and you become poor, those people just can't hack it. It's like a different universe. You know, I can hack there not being food in the fridge for one day. Been there before. I can hack going without going on holiday for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years even. Been there before. I can hack going without because most of my life I have been going without. But for a rich kid, that's scary, man. Because with the loss of wealth is also the loss of their friendship groups, their status, and their place in the social dominance hierarchy. That instills a lot of fear in the rich kid. That's constant fear. Because at any moment, they can lose it all. And they don't have the control because remember, that's not their money. It's the parents' money. But it gets worse. As another one of their fears is, can I ever match up to my parents' success? The rich kid asks themselves, what happens when my mum or dad dies? If that money's not coming through, will I be able to get a job as good as them? Will I be able to run the business as well as them? And statistically speaking, the rich kid will never ever be able to match up to their parents' success because their parents' success is so high up there. They're in the upper echelons of ultimate success. The chances of ever being that way is near to impossible. There can only ever be one Will Smith, one Kanye West, Beyonce. There can only ever be one Thomas Edison, Leonardo da Vinci, Leonardo DiCaprio. There can only be one Adele, one great mathematician, one great engineer. These people are so high up on this totem pole of success. When a rich kid grows up with that being their parent, it's like, wow, even if I did put everything into it, even if I did give it my all, the chances are like, nah, I ain't gonna beat Will Smith's success, bro. Like, Will Smith is so successful. Even within the Hollywood world, there are very few people who have had higher success than Will Smith. So what makes Will Smith's kids think they're going to beat him? It's almost unlikely. It's a rational thought to have, really. So that is absolutely a scary thought for many rich kids. They'll never measure up to their parents. Their parents are smart. Many of them didn't come from a rich background, like Will Smith, like Kanye West, like many of these rich people. Many rich people were not born wealthy. The majority of rich people today were born with next to nothing. It's a complete myth that most rich people were already rich. It's not true. Yes, out of the entire range of rich people and wealthy people, there is a small percentage which have come from old money. And yes, that money could have been in the family for hundreds of years, sometimes even more than 1,000 years. I've seen those people. I have met those people. But they are a small minority, and they are a part of what I call the glittering rich. Whole different ball game. I'm talking about the average rich person. They live in constant fear because they know that their lifestyle can go at any time, and even if it didn't, once their parents die, can they take the torch and run the race just as well as their parents? And as the rich kid becomes older and wiser, they'll soon start to realize that for most of them, the answer is a resounding no. Their parents are just far too talented, far too ambitious, far too conscientious and industrious for them to ever beat. And the secret cheat code that most of their parents had, which they have not been fortunate enough to be born into, was the luxury of starting with nothing and looking up. That's the cheat code which many poor people have, but the rich kid is robbed of from birth. They will never have it, because even if their parents got rid of all their money and said, no, we're not giving you no money. If they said what rich parents call it as cutting off, which means daddy and mummy won't give you no more pocket money. And by pocket money, we're speaking paying the rent, paying for all the fees to go out and clubbing and having a good time and holidaying. That's being called cutting off in a rich people's world. Even if their parents do that, they know at the end of the day that daddy's got 20 houses, a big business, and at least some money will be there. Or so they think. So the truth is, and this happens a lot, the rich kid loses their parents' money. Once the parents are dead and gone, in the majority of cases, the rich kids lose everything. In the majority of cases, by the third generation of wealthy families, the money has gone. Because it goes poor, poor, rich, and then poor, poor, rich again. It's a loop like that. Poor, poor, rich, lose money. Poor, poor, rich, lose money. Poor, poor. Because the rich kid doesn't feel it. They can't feel it. Feel what? Feel. Spark? What spark? Feel. Can I feel it? The desperation to be more, to make enough money to pay the rent, to put food on your table. They don't feel it. Feel. They don't feel it. They've never had to feel anything because they've already come from money. And this is what I'm trying to tell you. You think that it would be such a luxury to be born rich. But what you don't realize is, if you were born rich, it would rob you of the chance of having a dream and hope and aspirations. It's gone. You don't need a dream, hope or aspirations when you know daddy's already gonna buy you a house? For many people, they work their whole life just to get a house. You've got to understand, for many rich kids, their parents have told them, when I die, I'm leaving 5 houses to you, 5 houses to your brother, and a business for each of all of you. Why the hell do you need a spark when you know good things are already coming to you? They just don't feel it. And I can't really blame them, because guess what? They don't need it. I need it. You need it. They don't need it. You sit there at night and you think, wow, one day I can afford to go to Dubai, go to a nice restaurant, to Michelin star, to go on a yacht, to fly by business class. They've already done it. You aspire to drive a nice car. Nothing too fancy. A BMW 3 Series will do, or a Mercedes C-Class will do. They've already had one. I've been to rich kids' houses, and it would be an insult to even call it a house. My mentor took me just slightly out of London, somewhere by the western side of the M25. It was for Christmas dinner. He didn't tell me where he was going. He said, Hezron, I'm going to take you to one of my good friends. We got to these big golden gates, guys. I said, where the hell are we? He pressed the buzzer and he wouldn't tell me where we are. He said, hey, I'm so-and-so coming through. They let him in. I said, where the hell are we? We drove for 5 minutes through those golden gates, guys, through this luscious piece of land. I thought it was public property. In reality, it was all their land. It was acres upon acres. We had to drive to get to the main house. On that acres of land, there's 5 houses. The dad owned the main one. The 4 children that he had their own house situated on different parts of this land. The whole piece of land was surrounded by gates and walls so high, like the Trump wall. This was all their land. You had to drive to get from one house to the other on their own land. They owned all of it. And this is just next to London. Can you imagine the price? And each house in itself was amazing. It was the kind of mansion you would only dream of living in. They've got 5 of these houses in their land, and all the land belongs to them. So guess what? When all the land belongs to you, it's private property. You can drive it from a young age. So these rich kids, they told me, Hezron, I drove a Range Rover at 10 over this land. I've got another rich family friend that I know. They live north of London. Again, they have acres upon acres of land. The way these kids play hide and seek is on a whole different level. It's just wow. Anyway, in this land they have a lake. It's a big lake. I would say how can I say how big it is? It's probably 50 meters in length, so half of a 100-meter race. The lake is so big, guys, that they bought a boat so they could travel in this lake. So yes, they don't feel it. They've already had it. They already lived the life that you dreamed of for years. They already lived the life which you probably won't even ever attain, no matter how hard you work. They've been robbed of the experience of grinding and trying and being the best you can be. Why the hell be the best you can be when you already have it? But it comes with a major price. And that's total fear, because it can go at any time. But I'm not done yet, guys. It gets worse. Everything I've said up until now assumes that the family is emotionally healthy. But what if the rich kid's parents aren't emotionally healthy? Because money just exemplifies further who you really are. If you're a kind, loving person that loves to help people and loves to give, when you run into more money, you're going to do that times 10. You're going to be an even more giving person. You're going to be even more loving and charitable. But what if you're already a nasty, bad person that has bad intentions? Let me read you just one story from Quora that peers into the life of a rich kid. Yes, you may see this rich kid driving a nice car, nice clothes, going on nice holidays. But let's see what his family life is really like. I can only write anonymously for this one. I must tell you something. My father is rich. He is a millionaire. He had 3 kids, including me, and we can all be called relative failures. One of my brothers have spent more time in psychiatric hospitals than at work. The other one is a compulsive liar and also an alcoholic. Apparently recovering now, but it is hard to tell because, well, he is a compulsive liar after all. We don't talk too much anymore now in the family. As for myself, I live alone in a tiny studio. I have a part-time job, very unstable. That only covers 70% of my income. The rest is welfare money. But I cannot find a better job because I am so socially ill-adapted that everyone always ends up hating me in every job I have ever had. Which is why I now have an independent job with daily contracts and no commitments. Very few friends, no girlfriends. I was a virgin until the age of 24. I am that weirdo. Neither my dad nor my mum should have had children. They broke us, all 3 of us. My mother was a terrible, self-absorbed, selfish, narcissistic role model that I made the mistake of copying, hence the major social rejection that I suffer. As for my father, he never wanted children. He said that much. When we were young, he was always yelling, always belittling us, always telling us we were dumb, no good, that we would amount to nothing, that we'd end up being unemployed. Sometimes he would hit us. He had used money to manipulate us. He had the money, he made the rules and made that very, very clear. All 3 of us attempted suicide at some point. The idea still crosses my mind from time to time. Nowadays, I only keep in contact with my father because he gives a generous amount of money for Christmas every year and I want to inherit it someday. Greed is the only cement of our family. What else could it be? Love? There was none. I don't consider my cynicism as something to be ashamed of. I only stay for the money for a very simple reason. My parents broke me, made me unable to be 100% independent. I am, according to many people, exceptionally smart. Not my words. I speak 4 languages, monolingual by birth, the other 3 self-taught, and have many skills, but I cannot be independent for the life of me. My parents basically broke our legs and then criticized us for not walking straight. That is how I see it. So of course, I want my father's money to push my wheelchair, and he's getting no praises for it either. He broke me, he'll pay. I won't be sad when they die. Because of them, I am basically dead inside. We are failures because of the parents they were, but they happen to be rich. It takes more than wealth to raise a successful kid. I don't know if rich kids take money for granted, but it sure feels like kids from loving families also take love for granted. There's an element to wealthy families which simply does not exist in poor families, and that's money. And if the parents of said families are emotionally secure, stable, and giving, it could be used as an element for great control. So yes, the rich kid may have a lot of money, but this is exactly how some parents decide to control them. And it can be seriously damaging to the rich kid's mental health, because a simple tactic to use is flood them with money, like a narcissist would do, right? and then take it back and then keep them in line. Because son, daughter, if you want those holidays to keep coming, with the yacht parties and all that and the money and your Range Rover to come at your 21st birthday party, you got to do this, 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 this and this. It's a very, very, very simple way for a bad-minded person to control people. Money. And for that reason, a lot of rich kids turn to drugs and alcohol because they're so depressed with how their family's treating them. It's a great irony for a rich kid because they think, I have all the money, I have all the trappings of life, but yet I'm still unhappy. For those rich kids especially, it's a very, very sad, dark and miserable place. So the next time you encounter a rich kid and you think, wow, I would love to be there, think again, because the grass isn't always greener on the other side. You may envy their designer clothes, their luxury cars, and their wicked holidays which they post all over Instagram. But behind closed doors, you have no idea the truth behind what's really going on. And that's the rich kid's darkest fear.